Hello, thanks for joining me for another video. Once again, I was working on the next video in the series when I felt impressed to do another video before the one I had in mind. This video should have been the first in a 4-part series about how to witness to Jehovah's Witnesses, but when I get to the third in the series, you will understand why it was so important for me to give you these 2 videos first. Yes, 2. Suffice it to say, this is the first of a 2-part series on the subject, Only Dishonesty Defends Dishonesty. Before I get into the meat of the matter, I believe it is important to get something out of the way first. You would have noticed that I have created some videos responding to comments made by Watchtower apologists. It could easily look like I love to embarrass Jehovah's Witnesses who comment on the videos, or that I want to win a debate. It would be quite fickle of me if that were the reason. This is not about me. It is not about winning a debate. This is not a game. It is not a competition. These are fundamental issues that affect the very salvation of people who watch these videos. I respond to them because I am reaching out to Jehovah's Witnesses, and most Jehovah's Witnesses think alike. So when I hear how Jehovah's Witnesses address the issues raised, I feel obliged to speak to them, that is to say, to Jehovah's Witnesses watching these videos, not necessarily the individuals who comment on the videos. The video responses, therefore, are just a part of the scheme of things to help Jehovah's Witnesses to wake up to the truth about the truth they believe they have been spreading house to house. That said, take a look at this comment.
Winston has decided that, because he does not like my logo, and that I am dishonest, that he will not respond to any of my posts. The reason, I assume, is because I have used a logo that may be confused to his.
Note, the reason he claims I will not respond to his comments is that I do not like his YouTube icon, what he calls his logo. Note that he assumed, in other words, he did not know, so he assumed that it is because the logo may be confused to mine. He wrote that after we had email communication on the subject. I did the screenshots on Monday, October 5, 2015. Note that he made the comment 3 days prior. That would be October 2. Now look at the date for the screenshot of my email. 5 days ago, on September 30, I told him, the choice of icon is not a wise one. It makes following a conversation between us a bit confusing. Could it be that he did not read the email, and that is the reason he said he assumed I had a problem with the confusion? No. The very same day, September 25, 2015, he responded,
I know that the icon will make things confusing. That is partly why I used it.
I blocked out a section of the email because there he privately revealed to me who he was, and I believe it would be unethical of me to publicly expose it when he told me in private. I am not creating this video to expose a Jehovah's Witness regarding correspondence we had over YouTube channel icons. I don't have that much time. There is a bigger issue, and I chose to begin with that to make this one point. When I read his comment about the reason I told him, subsequent to the emails, that I will not respond to his comments unless he changes the icon, he reminded me a lot of Jeffrey Jackson of the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, who recently testified at the Australian Royal Commission into organizational responses to child sexual abuse. Like Jackson, this gentleman's choice of words is pretty interesting, and the way they convey their version of the truth is quite different from reality. Do you believe he will concede that his comment was dishonest, or that it did not reflect the truth? I would not be the least bit surprised if he came here and seek to rationalize by telling me that the fact that I found the icon to be confusing and the fact that I asked him to change it is evidence that I do not like the icon, and that it stands to reason that the reason I decided not to respond to his comments until he changes the icon is that I do not like it, so therefore he was not dishonest. And I would not be surprised if other JW apologists were to applaud should he make such a defense. That is how they spin and weave when they are caught in a lie. Let's face it. Would it not be reasonable to assume I did not like the icon because it creates confusion? Yes. But the reason I refused to continue to converse with him in comments on the videos is the confusion. And especially because he told me he did it to create confusion. He subsequently revealed he was just being troublesome and toying with me a bit. That's okay by me. He promised to change the icon. So all's well that ends well. The simple truth is, only dishonesty seeks to defend dishonesty or applauds it. This gentleman has publicly declared me to be dishonest for my suggestion that Mr. Jackson is dishonest. Hear him, like a spin doctor executing his craft.
Winston, in the open letter, you suggested that Mr. Jackson was lying. Here is your words from the post just above.
The liar suggested there are other spokespersons in the congregations.
That is not a lie. You do not understand what it is that he is saying, and, at this time, I am assuming you did not find and read my other posts. I will repeat most of what I presented in my second post under the open letter video. Quote, Winston, you have been quite remiss in your quote about this next question that comes straight after the question about the modern-day equivalent of Jesus's disciples, discussed earlier in your video, and above in my first comment.
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
The context here is that Mr. Jackson is being specifically asked about the governing body. Let's just see what Mr. Jackson actually said, and how he clarifies the statement that it would be presumptuous.
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using. The scriptures clearly show that someone can act in harmony with God's Spirit in giving comfort and help in the congregations.
You have fully and utterly misrepresented what Mr. Jackson and JWs understand about being a spokesperson in the congregation. I understand that your misrepresentation is not intentional, but is done out of not having all the facts. Well, at least I sincerely hope that is the case.
I have the Watchtower library with information on every subject covered at every Watchtower study conducted in every English-speaking Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses every single week from the year 1950 to the year 2014. Let's see what Jehovah's Witnesses understand about being a spokesperson in the congregation. Let's begin with the word spokesperson. Used 5 times in Watchtower magazines over the 65-year period, none of which is speaking to being a spokesperson for God, not to mention in the congregations. In fact, not once in any of their publications over that 65-year period have the words spokesperson and congregation ever appeared together in a Watchtower publication, any Watchtower publication whatsoever in the Watchtower library.
He is not limiting the role of spokespeople to the governing body, but anyone that acts in harmony with God's Spirit can be a spokesperson for God. When we use God's word to bring comfort to, say, a grieving person after a death in the family, we are being a spokesperson for God, by using God's own words to help someone.
Mr. Jackson was facing questions at the Royal Commission. Mr. Stewart was asking a number of questions regarding Watchtower beliefs and practices. He was evidently asking questions based on information gleaned on these matters. There is no Jehovah's Witness, no ex-Jehovah's Witness No Jehovah's Witness critic or anyone who has a basic clue of the organization who believes that the governing body sees itself as the only persons on the planet who can act in harmony with God's word and provide comforting words to someone from the Bible. Nobody would seriously put a question like that to Mr. Jackson. It is the Watchtower's teaching of being the only channel of communication that was under scrutiny. That is the reason the clip went viral immediately, because people know the Watchtower position of being the only true organization and the governing body as the only channel of communication. In fact, Mr. Jackson knows that is what Mr. Stewart was getting to. He obviously prepared for that question, so much so he answered a question that was not asked of him, obviously happy that Mr. Stewart used the word spokespeople instead of channel. Pay attention to Mr. Stewart's question. He did not use the word only.
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
But Jackson, knowing their claim of being the only channel is questionable, was the one to introduce the word only. Listen.
That I think would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using.
Mr. Jackson, I am pretty confident, knew very well that Mr. Stewart was seeking to get answers on the Watchtower teaching of being the only channel that God is using today. Mr. Jackson craftily covered up what Mr. Stewart was asking about by providing information that Mr. Stewart was not asking about. Luckily for him, he was not being examined by an attorney who had intimate knowledge of what the organization teaches. Mr. Jackson is guilty of misleading the commission, and only a dishonest person dares to challenge me on that, given what Mr. Stewart was driving at. And quite frankly, I am tired of the games of semantics that Watchtower spin doctors use. I challenged this very same person who posed as Watchtower defense on some false doctrines of the Watchtower. He tells me I must not confuse false doctrines with explanations of Bible prophecy. I brought to him dictionary definitions of the word doctrine. To that he replied,
I am well aware of what the dictionary says about the word doctrine. What you have to try to understand is the way that Jehovah's Witnesses think.
Apparently, English-speaking Jehovah's Witnesses don't understand the English language the way the rest of the world does. There is a Jehovah's Witness Bible. Do you suppose they should put out a Jehovah's Witness dictionary too? Question them about Jesus' presence, and you will find that we don't understand what the word presence means. Jesus came in 1919 to inspect the spiritual temple, they say. In 1919, the word came meant came. But today, it means turned his attention to. Dishonest people play those word games when caught in a lie. Imagine telling a man that his wife committed adultery with his neighbor. Then when found to be lying, says, you have to understand what the word adultery means. It can also mean to entertain adulterous thoughts, and she did think about it, so I did not lie. When I get to the 4-part series on witnessing to Jehovah's Witnesses, you will understand why it was so important that I first gave you the next video, in which another attempt by this JW apologist to defend Watchtower dishonesty is discussed. Do join me.